Thank you very much. So I just want to say to everyone, thank you for joining. Welcome. And I'm thrilled to chat with Francesca Cartier-Brickell about her wonderful book, which I have right here. Because your book is really quite the buzz this season. How long did this book take you to write?
It did take about 10 years. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. But yes, yeah, there are lots of fun anecdotes and things, yeah.
So your great-grandfather Jacques was one of 3 brothers, right?
Yeah, so he was the youngest of the 3 brothers, and he's probably like the least well known. So his eldest brother Louis is the one kind of famed for being this creative genius, for coming up with the first wristwatch for men and the idea of using platinum in jewelry before anyone else, and kind of creating Art Deco jewels before Art Deco even had a name, you know. Right. So he was a creative genius. And Pierre, the middle brother, was probably more well known in America. He married an American heiress and went over and started Cartier in New York, and was a brilliant businessman. I mean, he came up with ideas like a $5 department during the Depression, which was kind of groundbreaking for a luxury firm at that time. But the idea was that people who came into the store to buy something when they had $5, the idea was that at some point they would have money and they'd be back for the red box, you know. So it was that keeping that building up the client loyalty from the early ages. Jacques was the youngest brother, and he was very artistic, and he actually wanted to become a priest.
Really?
Yeah, so that was his that's what he felt was his calling. And there were great letters between the brothers where they write to him saying that he needs to be part of, instead of worshipping the Holy Trinity, he needs to be part of their fraternal Trinity. And, and they need him, yeah. And he's the one who took over the London branch. And with London went the British colonies, which is why he went to India, because India was, you know, the jewel in the British crown.
Right.
Yeah.
And so by the time he went to India, though, Cartier was really established as a global brand at this point, right?
It's quite funny, because just around that time, or just before that, Pierre Cartier married Elma Rumsey, an American heiress. And actually what's interesting is the New York Times report about their marriage doesn't talk about Pierre Cartier being a jeweler at all. It just mentions this American heiress to wed foreigner. We think
Are you
Cartier
serious?
was big, but in America, clearly they weren't even known at all.
What drew him to India in the first place? Really just gem acquisition? Was that the first step?
I mean, the Maharajas were, you know, some of the richest men in the world, and they came to Paris and to London, and when they came, they stayed. They didn't just stay in the best hotels. The Maharaja of Patiala took kind of 2 floors of the Savoy, you know, and they drove around, not just in one Rolls Royce, but in cavalcade. And so Jacques went in 1911 for the first time, because 1911 was the Delhi Durbar, which is a big celebration to celebrate the coronation of King George V. All the Maharajas in one place, because they all had to go and pay their respects to the new king. And jewels were centre stage. But he was really disappointed, because he went and he took all these cases of jewels from Paris. But, you know, Louis in Paris had been creating beautiful, delicate, garland-style, you know, corsage ornaments or tiaras. And when he got there, he found that it wasn't the women who wanted the jewels, it was the men. And, you know, they wanted to buy for themselves, not for their women. So he brought entirely the wrong things. Wow. And the only item they really wanted was a pocket watch that was fashionable in Paris at the time, because they wanted to keep up with the fashions of the West. So it was a bit disappointing from a sales perspective, that first trip. But he did travel around and, and see so many of these wonderful gemstones.
Who was the first Maharaja or aristocrat from India that brought jewels to Cartier to have them remade?
Well, lots of them did. And even on that first trip in 1911, for example, he went to Baroda, and the gatekeeper of Baroda asked him to sketch all the crown jewels and come up with idea for the redesigning of it. But then the local court jewelers in Baroda found out about this foreign jeweler who just arrived, and they were terrified they would lose their business forever. So they basically forced him out of the palace and left without the commission. But what was amazing is I went to Baroda and met the wonderful Maharani there now, and I was able to show her the pictures of Jacques' sketches from 1911 that he'd made in that palace where I was having lunch with her. And she was able to show me the jewel that he had been sketching, life size, you know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing.